Sir Jim Ratcliffe, some of you, well, most of you, I imagine, will know who he is, not least if you're a Manchester United fan. Some of you will like him, some of you might loathe him. But I'm intrigued to see what you think to the comments that he has made today. Take a listen to some of them. And
huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause...
It's been colonised?
It'll cause... Well, yeah. The UK is being colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it? I mean, the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020. Now it's 70 million. That's 12 million people.
You met recently with Nigel Farage, didn't you?
Just for accuracy reasons, I do need to point out that he's got his dates somewhat mixed up, because the population figure that he references as a starting point was actually the year 2000, not 2020. But I think that was just a misspeak. And to me, it doesn't take away from the point that he was making. He's talking about Britain facing profound political, social, economic challenges, and so on and so forth. What do you think some of the things that he has to say, Zia?
Well, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said that he believes Britain has been colonised by immigrants, and while some people might take issue with the bluntness of the language, I mean, Ratcliffe's always been a pretty blunt person. I think the point that he's making is absolutely valid. You have, over the 14 years of Tory government, it was 14 million people who arrived in the country gross, around 6.5 million people net. And, you know, look, I'm obviously the son of immigrants. No one knows better than me the invaluable contribution immigrants have made historically. But again, it's the sheer numbers, and it's also the motivations for people coming. So when my parents came to the country in the early 1980s, legal migration annually was roughly the same as what illegal migration by boats are today. And if you look at the Boris wave, my parents came here to work. They've given 50 years of service to the NHS. It was a very small amount of legal immigration, and people were coming here for very precise reasons to fill gaps in things like the NHS. If you fast forward to today, I mean, the Boris wave, for example, the most egregious example of this, nobody voted for this, well north of 3 million people arrived. The vast, vast, vast majority, this is legal immigration, did not come here on work visas. Many now have overstayed. The estimate for how many people who are in this country illegally, it's very hard because you're counting the uncountable, well north of 1 million people. And Michelle, nobody voted for this. This is the other important one. One reason people are so angry is because, you know, people voted for less immigration, and the Tories in 4 consecutive manifestos said that they would cut legal immigration down to the tens of thousands, left office with that number at over 1 million. And then there's just the degree to which the successive governments have obfuscated the true cost of this. So there's no way to tell what the cost on the of that level of immigration and foreign nationals is on the NHS. They do not disclose that. And then you can also point to where there is data, for example, specifically universal credit in terms of welfare. We're already paying, taxpayers are already paying £9 billion a year, and that's going to grow and grow. It's going to be well north of 12 billion probably by the time of the general election. And again, it is people who work, people watching this programme, who set their alarm clocks, who go to bed and do their part, who are having to pay the cost of that. So that's why Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said that. And frankly, it is to the detriment of the British people and an indictment of the way this country has been run now for 2 decades.
Dana?
I feel a bit more strongly about the word colonised. I wouldn't have used that phrase. I think that it implies the sort of deliberate taking of power by a group of people, which I don't think is the case. But I don't disagree with the idea that the mass migration was a mistake. I've been arguing that for 20 years. It was kind of obvious what the consequences were. And you're completely right, Zia. The crucial point being, and I said this often as well, people didn't want it and they didn't vote for it. The interesting thing is, given that, why did it happen? To some extent, it was deliberate, right? So some of it was about filling gaps in the workforce, as you talked about. And like you, I'm, also the son of refugees, in my case, refugees. And that was also done in order to give people a home who wouldn't be safe elsewhere. But some of it, and this is the really sort of challenging thing, and it'll be a challenge for you as it has been for other governments, is a combination of legal and illegal immigration that governments, even with their best efforts, have failed to control. And the challenge will be whether actually anybody, even with a thrust who wants to do it, is able to do it. What I've argued is politicians cannot go to the electorate now and say, this is a problem we can't solve. They can't say to people, we're going to have boats, they're going to come up to the coast, and the legal system, we can't stop it with that legal system. We will, politics has to change in order to do something about a problem that it has failed to deal with. And I think the reason why you've had a lot of political mileage making that critique is because people listen to it and think, well, that is actually, a robust point. So it's hard to argue with that. It has been a major policy failing. I don't think people voted for it. And I think, so you said it was about numbers. Actually, I slightly use a different phrase. I talk about speed, because I think numbers are one thing, right? If over a very, very long period of time, lots of people come here or they become second-generation immigrants, that's one thing. But speed means that people are coming here at a pace which makes it hard for them to integrate. And integration, because I think the problem is cultural, really. Otherwise, it's not sort of about some sort of ethnic invasion. That's not the issue at all.
But some people think
that's why I don't like the word colonised, and that's not where I...
But there are, just to pick up...
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 73% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 73% off ExpressVPN plus 4 extra months free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
Up on that point, though, I don't think I'd make this point writ large across all immigrants, but there are definitely people who come to this country, Danny, with the express intention of overturning our legal system and conquering it. There are people who are doing that, and those numbers are growing, sadly, and it's putting people in this country in a very, very difficult position. And I think if we're not willing to, if we're not going to solve any of these problems, if we're not actually willing to stare them in the face, and many of those people are deeply anti-Semitic as well, by the way, and our police service has frankly allowed this stuff to go on for far too long too. So I would argue also that the main reason we've had political mileage on this point is because Nigel has been largely making this same point now for decades, right? He's not an opportunist or somebody who's completely changed his mind on this thing. I'd also argue we've had parliamentary party after parliamentary party in this country now for decades who didn't really want to do anything about about immigration levels, because there are a lot of things we need to do, not just leave the ECHR, but then there's a whole number of international treaties that would then need to be derogated from. We're going to need to repeal and replace the Human Rights Act. So there's a whole bunch of things that need to get done so that, you can actually stop the boats from coming, but then we also have to address the rule of law and deport people who are in this country illegally. And that is just, I think, that is the mandate Reform will run on, and hopefully we will get a mandate to do that.
And you say about, the rate of speed, etc., being so quick, it's a struggle to integrate. Some people don't want to integrate.
No, that's true.
Some people come to this country, and to Zia's point, Daniel, they want us and they will try and forcibly achieve this. They want us to adapt our life.
That is true of some people. Of course there is. I'm not going to sit here and deny what everyone can see with their own eyes. And, you talked about the Jewish community. Some of those people are a real challenge. So they're a real present danger to my to my safety and safety of my family and the safety of my community. That's true. But it's not true of lots and lots of people who come here. Maybe under a mistaken policy, but not why they came here. If you read, Sajid Javid's just written, I recommend people to read it, his book, The Colour of Home. It's about his father coming here as a Pakistani immigrant. And lots of the issues of integration are all in that book about cousin marriage and about traditionalism and about his struggle to integrate himself in life and his parents' different attitudes. but they didn't come here in order to force anyone else to behave.
But he came here in a completely different era.
Correct, correct. So I'm just saying that you know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's not true of some people. It is, and I'm also going to pretend it's not a social problem. It absolutely is, but it's also only part of the issue of migration. And it's very important, people who have come here and they've come here to work and they contribute to the economy, they come here legally, they're trying to set up decent families and do a job and everything, that they don't feel, you know, reviled or...
But Danny, but that's actually a really important point. To the degree that they are, it is because of the catastrophic decisions made by successive governments.
I disagree with that.
And, you know, we should also talk, the other thing I think that's a really important factor is, you know, the amount of welfare spending that is resulting as a result of this. So it is, you know, if it was a relatively small number of people coming each year, like when Sajid Javid's parents or when my parents came, and the vast majority were working and there was not meaningful welfare spending on these people, and they would not get, immigration would not be the number one salience issue and reform would not be polling where it is. But what we are seeing now is this insane situation, to give you a specific anecdote, you know, where people are coming expressly to take advantage of our welfare state. Now, I would argue that would fit under the definition of colonisation too, because effectively they found a vulnerability and an exploit that they're taking advantage of. And so again, it's not just the fact that they're coming here in such vast numbers, and even people who are coming here legally, by the way, many of them are then, you know, the whole student visa thing, so many student visas now, sadly, are sort of complete scams, and people are overstaying. And, you know, let's take Pakistanis, for example. Pakistan does not feature in the top 20 nationalities in terms of people coming by boat, but they feature very high in terms of people who overstay and then end up in illegal. Their status changes to illegal after they overstay, having come in on student visas. So as a result of that, we have vast amounts of money being spent on welfare. And the anecdote I wanted to share was, you know, I remember going up to Runcorn during the parliamentary by-election that Sarah won. You know, there was literally a gentleman who had served this country in the British Army, who had been suffering from PTSD, served a Section 20 notice by his landlord, by his corporate landlord, in order to accommodate a bunch of fighting-age men who had come here arrived on our beaches illegally. Why? Because that corporate landlord had been offered a 7-year contract, 30% above market rate. So when people look at that, and that anecdote is sort of where it gets to Bond villain levels of wickedry, and I think that is now happening writ large across the country.
Well, it's certainly happening, and the question is, you know, I mean, it seems a petty thing to argue, but I think it's important. I don't think colonisation is an appropriate phrase to use for it, but I do think you're making a lot of very valid points about something people can see is happening, and I understand. I think it was predictable, and indeed I, among a lot of other people, predicted it, and it's caused social unrest of exactly the sort that one might suggest would happen. It was a very big policy mistake. Unravelling is more difficult, though.
Well, unravelling it requires the absolute will to do that, and some people would suggest that will doesn't even exist. I can tell you now, I know you don't like the word colonisation. Many of you at home, you absolutely do appreciate that turn of phrase, and many of you at home are saying, thank goodness somebody is finally saying what we can see. Catherine says, maybe what he should have said is that many towns and cities in the UK have been colonised. Catherine says they absolutely have been, and you would be blind not to be able to see that. The Home Office has said the Home Secretary has also announced the most sweeping reforms to tackle illegal migration in modern times, removing the incentives that bring illegal migrants to the UK and scaling up the return of those with no rights to be here. I saw a tweet the other day from the Home Office saying illegal migrants will no longer be getting taxes to doctors' appointments. How insulting that was even a thing, that they were getting taxes to appointments in the first place. Many of you watching this at home chance will be a fine thing to get in to see your GP, never mind being taxed at the taxpayer's expense to get there.